Hey guys, welcome back. Earlier we went ahead and made a batch of lean bread dough following our 5:3 ratio. Today we're going to learn how to manipulate that ratio a little bit to do some enrichments to the bread. Like we've talked about in class, some of our enrichments could be oil, like maybe olive oil for that focaccia we had looked at, butter, could be shortening, eggs, sugar, and it could be sugar in different forms. It could be molasses, it could be honey. What else? It could be dairy products, it could be cream. All right, so there's a number of different enrichments, and then beyond that, we also have really unlimited, internal and garnishes and toppings as well as washes. So on that basic bread dough, we're going to be able to elaborate that many different ways. So this time to speed it up, because we already went through the portioning of the flour in the last video. I've got here 20 ounces, so that's going to be just 4 times our 5:3 ratio. All right, and again, if you don't have a scale at home, we already determined 4 1/4 cups came out to be very close to 20 ounces. All right, now for our water. Here's going to be one of our first diversions on that ratio. So we went for the 12-ounce mark on liquid, but look here, we're going to go ahead and put an egg in there. All right, or you can even use a couple eggs if you like, or you could be using milk. And then we're going to go ahead and add our warm water. All right, so the combination of that egg and water, we'll bring that up to that 12-ounce mark. And you know what? Really, make sure you're very accurate with your liquid. Right there, that parabola, the bottom of that line swoop, right there at the mark. All right. Now you've got your pre-portioned yeast. If you got it from me, or if you bought it from the store, one of these packets, you've got one. These are actually 2½ teaspoons. All right. Or if you got the ones that I pre-packed, they were 1 tablespoon. Don't worry about reducing the quantity of the yeast. All it's going to do is, that much difference is only going to affect a little bit how fast or how slow it might fully rise. All right, now we're going to still, just like we did when it was only water, we're going to go ahead and bloom the yeast by hydrating it into the water. All right. You don't necessarily have to wait and allow it to rest. If you do, you'll see it foam up a bit. But it's moisturized, it's going to be activated now, it's ready to come alive. And I mentioned in the last video, sometimes I like to give it a little kick, a little sugar high. Just a little teaspoon of sugar in there, which is going to just rev up that yeast production. It's not, that much isn't going to really lend any sweetness to the bread, but it will invigorate that yeast. All right, so we've got our portion of flour here, and my salt. I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon. So again, for this batch, we're looking at 20 ounces of flour. We're going to have 12 ounces of liquid, I'm saying. Even though, to be honest, egg is a good deal fat as well. So it's not totally liquid, but watch how it does work. All right, so we've got our flour. All right, and here is where we're going to start playing with some internal garnishes, all right? Now these things, more or less inert, they're not going to affect our moisture ratio. Like this here is some dehydrated onions. I'm not going to use as many as I just dumped in my hand, but a good chunk of them. Now being that they're dehydrated, they may take up a little moisture, but it's not going to be a great amount. What I got here, I've got some oregano. You can make so many varieties. I do a jalapeno cheddar one pretty often. I do a coconut bread pretty regularly. Rosemary and fresh garlic is great. What I got here too, I got some crumbled Parmesan going in there. All right. And you know what? We're going to even enrich it with a little fat on this one. Maybe a little bit, a tablespoon of olive oil. Let's see. Oof. All right. Now, being that this is fat, the oil, it's not gonna treat it as water. It will give you that moist mouth feel, but it's not gonna affect your ratio. So that's the thing. You do have to be specific and accurate with your measurements, but when to learn what ingredients don't affect the ratio, that's when you learn how much you can expand with a very limited amount of knowledge. Honestly, I've proven that for a long time. All right, so now we've got our bloomed yeast going in here. Just like we did before, you're gonna get in there and you're gonna hand mix it. It's gonna start off messy. You're gonna work through it, and when it's right, it's gonna clean up the bowl, it's gonna clean up your hand, and it'll clean up the counter. Now with the addition of the oil, it will be a little more tacky, but it'll still be very workable. All right, so the best way, just to dive right on in there. And while I'm mixing this one with one hand, let's have a peek at the last dough. Now, if you can see, it's definitely grown. It was up here, rising up, touching the plastic. I had to come back and do the punch down because it was going to overproof. I had it timed out so slick, but you never know. With me uploading those YouTube videos, sometimes they just take crazy long. All right, so once this one is mixed, we'll come back and we'll get that one portioned and shaped, but I'll actually make that a separate video. All right, so we're going to that shaggy dough stage right now. All right. Looks like I'm throwing some pieces down for the pup. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go ahead, just like I did on the last one. I'm going to turn this all out to the counter. Make sure you get everything, all right? No point in getting an accurate ratio and then losing waste all along the way, all right? So I got the bowl emptied out. Get that out of the view. Sorry. All right, now we're going to go back to that figure 8 motion, and you can see it is going to be stickier with the fats from the egg and the oil than the last, but you just got to have to power through it. I'm going with this figure 8 motion again. You see where I keep one hand down, one hand over. And let's see if we can get this to come together and clean up a bit. And you see what I do? I kind of walk it around, gather all the loose bits. Make sure you start with a good clean counter if you're going to do it this way. If you happen to have a fancy bread mixer with a hook, go ahead and use it, all right? And again, just like with the last dough, there's more going on here, but this is no different than when we made our plain roux with just butter and, flour, versus whenever we turned out and make gumbo with all the meat and the vegetables all incorporated in there. There's more going on here, but the principles are the same, all right? So we're gonna knead this through, and we're looking to get to that point. See right now, that bread's still gonna rip so easily. We wanna get this elastic. Gonna build up those gluten strands so that this dough will be able to resist all that carbon dioxide gas that the yeast is gonna be excreting. All right. Oh, I'm so out of shape. Whew. Oh, getting there. It is definitely more tacky than the last dough, but I think you can see it is starting to still pick up, right? Getting there. All right. Another minute, and I'll probably phone it up for the video a little bit and cut it short, but when you're doing yours at home, mix this thing until it will stretch. You can get it to the point that you can do what you call the window test, which is where you can take and stretch a piece until you can see light shining through it. Get it nice and thin. And you know what? Partially for my windage here, and also for the sake of getting it uploaded in a reasonable amount of time, I'm gonna go ahead and call it good right there. All right, so we've got our dough mixed, pretty well cleaned up. Like I mentioned, a little stickier than the basic lean dough, but trust me, this is gonna be incredible. All right, thank you, and I'll get back to you soon. We'll portion and shape. Thank you.